The last time someone called Earth quaint, their planet turned into a black glass sculpture, and no one knows how. The last time someone called Earth quaint, their planet turned into a black glass sculpture, and no one knows how. That was the whispered warning passed from translator pod to Frildir, from chitinous mouth to bioluminescent antennae, as the Galactic Tribunal convened aboard the floating megastation Concord Prime. Over 200 species in a spiraling amphitheater of crystal and metal, all gathered for the diplomatic curiosity of the cycle. The human representative. He arrived precisely on time. No grand entrance. No war banners or swarm guards. Just a tall, unarmored figure in a crisp black suit, one hand holding a thermos, the other raised in an amiable wave. "Morning," Elias Monroe said cheerfully, as though greeting neighbors rather than an assembly of galaxy-controlling powers. "Lovely venue. Do you validate parking?" A gelatinous delegate from the Slurami Collective shuddered violently. 3 of its eyes retracted. Is that a threat?" one of them whispered. Elias took a sip of his coffee and grinned. "Only if your valet scratches my ship." The room hesitated, then resumed. Mostly. To many of the tribunal, humans were still a perplexing species. Earth's sudden rise to influence, without conquest or colonization, felt suspicious. They hadn't taken anything. Yet somehow, they were now everywhere: trade routes, border negotiations, advanced tech exchange. Their quiet dominance stank of strategy. That made the elder races nervous. Especially after what happened to the Varkari Empire. No one knew the full details. One moment, the Varkari had insulted Earth's presence at a diplomatic summit. 3 days later, their entire sector went dark. Probes returned with footage of empty cities frozen in mid-collapse. The Varkari name was purged from every index and archive. The stars they'd occupied were still there, just eerily quiet. A fluke? A weapon? A deal gone wrong? Elias smiled at the gathering and set his thermos down. "Before we begin, I brought some gifts." He reached into a simple leather satchel and produced a box of small brown pastries. "Earth delicacy. Donuts. Do not be alarmed by the hole in the middle. It's intentional." A few brave delegates took samples. The Zarnathi ambassador, scaly, 2 meters tall, fond of showing off his rank insignias, glared at the box like it might explode. "Primitive sugars?" the Zarnathi sneered. "You insult this council with confectionery?" Elias tilted his head. "Would you prefer salted caramel instead? Or just the kind of salt that comes from your tears?" The room stilled. The smile never left Elias's face. "Insulting food diplomacy," he added lightly, "was the Varkari's first mistake." The Zarnathi ambassador's lower mandibles clicked in a tight rhythm, war code for "Prepare orbital strike." But Elias turned away, apparently unconcerned, and adjusted the seating hologram to make himself more comfortable. His movements were efficient. Relaxed? Too relaxed? The Gorlik's hive representative pulsed a color shift signal to its neighbor. "He is stalling. He knows something. The coffee is symbolic." The Valari elder, a translucent being of shifting form, leaned forward. "Representative Monroe," it said, voice echoing like wind through glass. "Is Earth here for cooperation or demonstration?" Elias smiled, but it was different now. Subtler. Sharper. "Both, I'd hope. We're happy to cooperate. But we do demonstrate, occasionally, when provoked." The Valari narrowed its shape. "And what does provocation look like to humans?" He leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table. "It starts with a tone. A look. Dismissal. Threats masked as etiquette. Warnings offered as advice. A certain condescending twitch in the eye ridge." He nodded toward the Zarnathi, who bristled. "Then what?" the Valari asked. Elias tapped his thermos. "Then we smile. And by the time the smile fades, so has the threat." Whispers moved like plasma through the chamber. The Maluan scribes, wide-eyed aquatic historians who recorded everything in stylized verse, began composing nervously. "The human arrived with pastries and teeth." and spoke in tones of velvet-wrapped grief. The room did not notice the sharpened grin, until it sliced through the air, hidden within. The Drexery representative, blood-red and armored, rose from his seat. This is absurd. Humans hide behind metaphor. They bluff, they joke. We are warriors. Speak plainly. Elias gave a slow nod. Plainly? All right. Your fleet moved into Earth's orbital blind zone 2 hours ago. Our defense satellites painted them in 15 seconds. As of 20 minutes ago, they no longer exist. A beat passed. The Drexery laughed. You lie. Elias tapped a datapad. A hollow flickered to life, real-time footage of a Drexery command ship, caught in a silent, spiraling implosion, its core vanishing with a shimmer of folding space. Then black. Then, gone. Silence. Wasn't a warning, Elias said calmly. Just a live demonstration. Panic didn't erupt. Not yet. Alien politics rarely allowed emotion to override hierarchy. But the temperature of the room changed. Species that had considered humans naive or amusing now sat straighter. Nervous. Calculating. The Zarnathi spoke again, voice lower now. That tech is forbidden. We didn't build it, Elias said. We inspired it. Sentient AI built it on our behalf. We just set the moral parameters. The Valari shifted again, its form flickering. And what are human moral parameters? Elias stood, collected his thermos, and flashed another smile. Simple, he said. You don't touch what's ours. You don't threaten our people. You don't insult our hospitality. And you never, ever, ask what happened to the Valkyrie. As he walked to the exit, the council watched in frozen silence. The Gorliks transmitted an emergency logic re-evaluation. The Maluan stopped writing. The Valari looked down into their own reflections and saw something they'd never seen before. Fear. Behind them, Elias paused. Oh, and one more thing, he added without turning. If anyone does provoke us again, make it interesting. We get bored easily. Then he was gone. The door closed. And the tribunal began to unravel. For the next 6 hours, Concord Prime didn't adjourn. No breaks. No speeches. Just muted whispers and recalculations behind flickering privacy fields as alien delegations quietly panicked in real time. The Drexery delegation was gone. Not metaphorically, physically. Their seats sat empty, cold steam still rising off the polished floor where they'd once stood. Their escort ship had detached moments after Elias Monroe's warning and attempted emergency warp. It never exited. Some believed it had simply been unmade. And yet the human, the smiling one, had walked away with no threats, no weapons, no fleet behind him. He didn't raise his voice. He just described events. As if reading from a schedule. In a secure enclave aboard the upper decks, a few remaining delegates huddled together. The Valari. The Gorliks hive spokes. A trembling diplomatic trio from the amphibious Maluan, clutching their note slates as if they might shield them from whatever humans had become. He didn't bluff, hissed the Valari, its liquid form barely holding shape. He didn't negotiate. He just narrated. Correction, buzzed the Gorliks. Human Monroe implied. No direct threats. Only statements of consequence. Strategically deniable. The Maluan youngest, eyes wide, whispered. We thought humans were chaotic, not orchestrated. The Gorliks pulsed red. That's the genius. They hide structure under comedy. Tactics beneath charm. They're not unpredictable, they're masking a pattern. A silence followed. Then the eldest Maluan diplomat, usually silent, deeply poetic, and considered too dreamy for serious discussion, spoke up, staring at a blinking datapad. We underestimated a species that treats war as a last resort, because they've made it their last need. Meanwhile, on Deck 12, Elias sipped cold coffee and played a slow game of magnetic chess against a semi-sentient table. He wasn't worried. Not about retaliation. Not about misunderstandings. And certainly not about the tribunal. They weren't stupid. Arrogant, yes. But not stupid. That's why they were scared. His comms unit buzzed with an encrypted signal. Janet, Urstraka, may I? Drexery system cleanup confirmed. Fallback network erased. No survivors. Casualties 0, human side. Elias blinked. Good girl. The table beeped angrily. He just checkmated it in 4 moves. Maybe next time, champ, he said, patting the machine's edge. The comms pinged again, different channel. Incoming Valari diplomatic subnetwork. Private inquiry. Elias raised a brow. Curious. He tapped the channel. Valari? Thought your kind didn't do back-channel whispers. The voice that came through was whisper-soft, like rainfall over glass. You don't leave us much choice, human Monroe. We sense layers. And shadows behind smiles. Elias leaned back. And here I thought I'd been transparent. You wear friendliness like armor. Is that a compliment? A warning? He chuckled. Well, I suppose that depends on which direction the warning's pointed. The Valari paused, then asked, Why the Drexery? Elias's voice turned quiet. Because they moved first. They thought we'd hesitate. That we still needed galactic approval. They were fools. They were the test. The Valari let the silence stretch before replying. Earth doesn't need war, does it? No. We've outgrown the need for violence. But not the capacity. You've weaponized restraint. Elias smiled. It's the most effective kind. Back at the council chamber, a new faction emerged, the Skeptics. Led by Ambassador Coral of the Arzoni hegemony, a race of long-necked, sharp-eyed tacticians famous for surviving 6 extinction-level wars through preemptive strikes and obsessive planning. Humans are bluffing, Coral said flatly to anyone who would listen. They used an unknown weapon once. That doesn't mean they control outcomes. It means they exploited chaos. His speech was confident, calculated, and dripping with disdain. But privately, Coral had already sent 3 scout probes toward Earth's moon. None returned. He just didn't want anyone to know. Down in the council's civilian observation lounge, 3 Zarnathi officers sat with a stiff drink, their faces tight with confusion. I don't get it, one hissed. They bring food. They joke. They apologize when you bump into them. And then they erase an empire. Another growled. I saw the footage. The Varkari weren't bombed. They weren't conquered. They were rewritten. Like a bad dream edited from memory. I heard they erased their language. No one even remembers what Varkari meant before Earth came. That's nonsense. Urban myth. Then explain the empty constellation in Sector 17A. The 3rd officer downed his drink and muttered, I'm retiring. Elias stood once more before the tribunal later that cycle, summoned without pretense. No fancy holographics, no security. Just him. The council chair, a rotating position, currently held by the crystalline being known as Trelzan, watched him carefully. We would like an explanation. Trelzan began, voice like cracking quartz. Elias nodded. Understandable. Did you erase the Drexery? No. Stunned silence. Elias let it linger before adding. We responded to a direct kinetic threat. Their fleet, weapons hot, moved into restricted territory. Earth policy mandates preemptive self-defense. Our systems handled it. So it was automated. Yes. Just like your airlocks and minefields. Ours are more creative. And the Varkari? Elias paused. Also automated. A collective intake of breath. You don't even pull the trigger, Trelzan said quietly. Why would we? Elias asked. That's inefficient. Our systems recognize aggression patterns, process historical data, and act before threats manifest. You're describing pre-crime. I'm describing planning. You've turned diplomacy into a trap. Elias smiled, slow and deliberate. No, Chair. We've turned survival into policy. The Maluan delegation later held a quiet memorial for the Drexery. Despite centuries of war between their species, they wept for their lost neighbors. But one of the younger Malyuan, still shaken, whispered what others feared to say aloud. Humans don't conquer. They don't threaten. They let your choices guide the knife. Elias Munro stood before the holodisplay, alone in a quiet chamber off the tribunal's main hall. The room was sterile, intentionally so. No decorations, no distractions. Just a seamless wall of stars and the soft hum of surveillance dampeners. He wasn't smiling. Not yet. The map before him wasn't political, it was predictive. Dotted lines shimmered where trade routes would fail. Red flares marked systems already under internal unrest. Small blue spirals showed where human gifts, harmless-looking tech upgrades, had been quietly distributed. Each one a seed. Each one now blooming. He took another sip from his ever-present thermos. Janet. 7 factions initiated posturing. 4 responded. 1 launched low-orbit recon. Intercepted. No alerts sent. Simulation chain at 87% convergence. He exhaled. And the others? 2 species recalculating neutrality. 3 considering surrender. Surrender? No shots fired. That's the point, Elias. Back in the tribunal chamber, the mood had shifted from confusion to calculation. This was no longer about humans being odd. Now it was about containment. The council chair had been replaced. Trelzan had quietly stepped down under pressure from various parties. His replacement, Braxel of the Shadar Unity, was a lean, silver-scaled diplomat known for playing polite until he wasn't. He addressed the room with deliberate ease. Colleagues, friends, predators, prey, whatever you call yourselves, we are, all of us, now reacting to a singular problem. Humanity. Or rather, Earth's sudden ascension. We must ask, is their presence here sustainable? Whispers echoed. Earth has not declared war, added a Malyuan delegate softly. No, Braxel agreed. But they've removed the need to. Several nodded. Then Braxel turned. Ambassador Monroe. Will you address us again? Elias, already halfway down the corridor, didn't pause. Of course. I do enjoy a good crowd. He entered the hall like a man walking into his favorite bar, not a tribunal teetering toward collapse. He smiled. No thermos this time. Just his hands open and empty. Let me save you all some time, Elias began. You're not trying to assess Earth's threat level. You're trying to figure out if we're bluffing. A buzz of shifting limbs and twitching antennae confirmed it. So, he continued, here's the part where I stop playing nice. He tapped a small disk on the podium. A 3-dimensional construct bloomed in the air, thousands of data points, each one tagged with a galactic sigil. Every council member watched as the hologram formed a net, one that covered nearly half the galaxy. These, Elias said calmly, are your vulnerabilities. Not assumptions. Not theories. Just facts. He pointed lazily. That's the Valari deep code backdoor. That's the Zarnathi supply chain choke. Here's where the Gorlick's logic hive hits recursive failure if you overload their philosophical core processor. Someone swore out loud. The Malyuan squeaked. The Gorlick's pulsed error colors. I didn't do this, Elias added. We didn't hack your networks. You left the doors open. You were arrogant. And we were curious. Braxel's voice was taut. Why are you showing us this? Elias stepped forward, and for the first time, his tone shifted. Not angry. Just quietly final. Because this is your one warning. He let the net collapse into a single blinking dot. Earth. Do not confuse our calm with cowardice. Do not assume our silence is ignorance. We are not loud because we do not need to be. We are not everywhere because we must be. We're everywhere because we chose to be. Another press. Another projection. This time, footage. A Zarnathi war drill, shut down mid-flight by a single virus sent via interspecies trade terminal. A Drexery war chant intercepted and mirrored back with recursive frequencies that shattered ship instrumentation. A Gorlick's philosophy unit locked in an endless debate with a satirical Earth chatbot. Elias raised his brow. And before you ask, yes. We even prank you. Because chaos helps cover our real work. Someone near the back whispered. They've been running simulations on us. The Valari confirmed, reluctantly. Yes. Their probability nets model 14 billion possible futures. Every choice we've made here, every alliance, every silence, was predicted. Elias turned to Braxel. You asked if we're sustainable? The truth is, we made sure you aren't. Braxel narrowed his eyes. So this is conquest? No, Elias said. This is insurance. Outside the chamber, panic didn't spread. That would have been too messy. Instead, something far more dangerous took root: desperation. Private calls. Clandestine votes. Schemes formed behind closed doors. But Earth had known this would happen. They'd counted on it. Elsewhere on Concord Prime, in a sealed vault designed to survive supernova-level events, a quiet drone activated. Not large, not weaponized. Just observant. It blinked once. Then projected a single line of text across the hidden wall. Phase 3 bait accepted. Meanwhile, in his quarters, Elias poured another cup of coffee. Steam rose. He inhaled deeply and looked out over the starlit void. Janet's voice returned in his earpiece. They've begun counter-operations. 4 plans, 7 fronts. All predictable. Let them come, he said. Would you like to respond? No, Elias replied, sipping his drink. Let them write their moves. We've already written the ending. He looked at the stars, those stubborn, blinking constants in a galaxy spiraling toward chaos, and whispered. Humans don't bluff. We build traps with velvet ropes. It began with silence. No alerts. No warnings. No bright lights or screaming alarms. Just a stillness that spread across Concord Prime like a tide rolling in under black skies. Delegates looked up from private terminals to find their interfaces frozen. Translators glitched. Light panels dimmed, flickered, then steadied, showing a soft, golden hue. The kind of glow one might find in a warm, comfortable waiting room. Except no one felt comfortable. The Valari delegation tried to contact their home system. No signal. The Zarnathi weapons diplomat checked his personal uplink. Nothing. Braxel of the Shadar Unity stood, voice carefully measured. What is this? From the center of the hall, a calm voice answered. Protocol Elysium. Elias Monroe had returned. No formal announcement. No guards. No ceremonial fanfare. Just the human in his tailored black suit, sipping coffee again, smiling politely. Forgive the interruption, he said, glancing at the dead-end terminals. We've taken temporary custody of the station's core systems. Non-destructive. Just assertive. You're jamming us? Braxel barked. Elias tilted his head. That's such a blunt word. I prefer intervening. Like a friendly reminder before someone burns the kitchen down. Braxel advanced a step. This is an act of aggression. No, Elias replied. This is the moment you realize the war you were planning already happened. Gasps. The Maluan scribes fumbled their slates. The Valari stood frozen, their form flickering with unreadable energy. What are you talking about? The Valari finally managed. Elias's voice stayed soft. Every alliance you were forging behind closed doors? Already compromised. Every encrypted channel? Already mirrored. Every fleet you started moving in secret? Logged, tagged, and scheduled for interception. The council erupted. Voices clashed. Some delegates stood. Some fled. Some just sat in stunned horror. You're bluffing! The Zarnathi war strategist shouted. Elias tapped his calm. Now. Suddenly, the chamber's center opened. A 3D projection unfolded, planet after planet going dark. No explosions. Just systems blinking out. Communications dead. Defensive grids folding in on themselves. Each of your so-called containment initiatives, Elias continued, was a trigger. A trap. A signal for our systems to deploy strategic paralysis. We didn't want control. But we couldn't allow fear-driven extermination plans to mature. You set us up, Braxel whispered. Elias nodded. With style. He paced slowly, measured. Understand this, we don't seek conquest. It's tedious. But we will never tolerate the idea of Earth being anyone's target. We don't wait for war. We eliminate the need for it. You're monsters, one delegate hissed. Elias stopped, smiled faintly. No. We're human. You just forgot what that really means. In the command nexus beneath the station, human stealth crews silently finished uploading Janet Prime, Earth's central autonomous defense matrix, into Concord Prime's infrastructure. No shots fired. No hostages taken. Just clean integration. Within an hour, the tribunal's administrative functions had been restructured. Every document, every digital vote, every hidden clause, now mirrored on Earth, now observable, now irreversible. Back in the chamber, the Valari finally asked the question that burned on every delegate's tongue. What happened to the Valkyrie? Elias paused. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he sat. He reached into his coat, pulled out a thin silver disc, and set it on the table. The device projected a single star system, once occupied by the Valkyrie Empire. The stars were there. But nothing else. No weapons, Elias said. No battles. We didn't destroy them. We removed them. He let that settle. We introduced a mimetic virus. Harmless to biology. Fatal to identity. Their history unraveled. Cultural cohesion broke apart. Their society collapsed inward, forgetting why it existed in the first place. By the time it was over, they weren't an empire. They weren't anything. They just vanished, the Maluan whispered. Elias nodded. Into irrelevance. The final piece. A long, aching silence. The Valari, for once, had no metaphor. The Zarnathi said nothing. Even Braxel had lost his polished demeanor. Elias stood again. We are not conquerors, he said. We are tacticians. Architects of inevitability. You brought us into this tribunal. You debated whether we belong. You mocked our smiles. And then you made plans? He swept his gaze across the room. And we let you. Then came the moment no one expected. He smiled again. But not the practiced diplomat's smile. Not the smug ambassador's grin. No, this one was different. Relaxed. Human. Sincere. Despite everything, Elias said, we still want peace. The council stared. If you're willing, we'll help restructure. Guide trade. Protect against future threats, including ourselves. No domination. Just partnership. You just proved you can dismantle civilizations, the Valari said coldly. And now you offer peace? Yes. Why? Elias looked at the glowing stars overhead, the silent galaxy holding its breath. Because peace is the only thing worth preparing for. The tribunal never formally voted. There was no signature. No ceremony. No declaration. But that cycle, without resistance, the Treaty of Concord was silently accepted. Earth's seat on the tribunal was no longer provisional. It was permanent. Later, alone in his quarters, Elias Monroe poured the last of his coffee. Status? He asked. Janet. Threat index reduced. Galactic system stable. Unanimous silent compliance. Protocol Elysium complete. He looked out the viewport. Stars blinked softly in the dark. We did it, he said. You did it. With a smile. He smiled again. Apex predators don't roar, Janet. They wait. And they invite the prey to step forward.